And boom. All right. Hello, everybody in Facebook land. We are the Podguyz Podcast, bringing it to you live as we do, 10:15 Eastern Standard Time. We're a tiny bit early today. Usually we're late. Not today. How about that? I'm Tony Cass.
Kevin Neary here.
Of course, we have the ever-loving Picasso.
Yeah.
He's getting it. Spark it.
And Sparky says hi in bubble letters for our non-viewing audience out there. He drew that letter H and the I both together.
He is quite the guy. Quite the guy.
Spelling bee for the novices out there.
For our non-watching audience, of course, if you have a linguist or a sign languager going on right now, that's where I was going with. It's some ASL, buddy. ASL.
Okay.
Of course, Sparky is our drawer. He is a man. I don't even know what to call him, Kevin. How would you classify his art critiquing?
I would call it abstract interpretation of the world.
Is it minimalism?
What we do is we talk and he draws, because that's his strong suit right there. If you've ever heard Sparky speak, you know that is not his strong suit. Speaking, words together, sentences, commas don't come into play. It's pretty tough there.
That's true. He's a minimalist. But I like it. Today we're joined by the very funny, very talented Jannine Luby.
Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Hello. Thank you. For everyone that may be watching, of course, who are you? What do you do? And what are you famous in this area for?
Wow. Okay. Where do I begin?
All right. That's enough.
That it? That's all you need to know?
That's it. That's all we need. That's the end of our show. Thanks for coming.
Wrap it up.
That's all the time we have. All right, great. What am I famous for? God, I don't know if I'm famous for much, but no, I do stand-up comedy. I've been doing it for a long time, 15 years or more, 20 years probably. And I actually started with improv and went to stand-up and kind of went back to improv and then went back to stand-up.
How did you get into
improv? So my goal, I always joke that I don't know if I'm an introverted extrovert or an extroverted introvert, although I've heard the term recently multivert or ambivert, so I could be both.
That sounds like they're doing a cheat code there, though, right? Like, I'm a multivert. It's like, you mean normal then, right?
Yeah, like an everyday person.
What the fuck is Marvel Universe?
So I was the type that, like, I would not say anything in school. I was like trying to be the perfect student. I was too shy, always wanted to do comedy, really shy, and went to Penn State. I wasn't really involved in much extracurricular, came home in my 20s, saw On the Spot Improv, which we're talking a long time ago. Only people probably my age-ish will probably know them. And, I was like so shy that I was afraid to go up to them after a show and be like, excuse me, how do you get into this group? And I did. And we did improv in Clark Summit in a little place called Tudor Bookshop, which has closed a long time ago. It was a coffee shop. We had a monthly show there. And that's where I first got to be in front of people, making them laugh. And it was a great feeling.
And where was that at?
That was in Clark Summit. Like, people who live in Northeast PA, I don't know, I'm sure this broadcast way beyond the borders of northeastern Pennsylvania, but
no, there's like 3 people that watch this show.
For Bob and Old Forge and Tom and DuPont.
James Simple, who's watching right now.
I think she's naming the wrong region. We have a really big following in like Japan, Italy, Germany, basically the whole Trilateral Commission from World War II. Mm-hmm. They are our main audience. I don't know why.
Okay.
We have shown up on some Israeli radios.
Oh my!
Big shout out to the
really
Philippines.
Picking up. Now this is the reality world, right? We've been picking up steam in Australia, Germany, and Denmark.
Oh,
we have had many good interviews out of Australia too. So we have, and I have my future brother-in-laws out there in Australia always promoting. My fiance is out there in the Philippines always promoting. But Jannine, you are also known as a very funny and famous author.
Well, I wouldn't go. Let's not talk too much about that.
Better than Stephen King.
No. I did self-publish 2 books, but sadly, I will tell you, I shouldn't say sadly. It's not sad. It's just I did those years ago, and one was just an illustrated book that had like one-liners about bad dates, and it's been many years since I've really been immersed in that world of dating. And considering the culture we live in now, some of the jokes may not be viewed as funny or might be, stale-ish. So I look to promote, or I should say to do another book in the future. But those books I did, He's Not Prince Charming When, I published in 2010. I kind of feel is kind of outdated, but I did publicize it for a while back then. And like I said, back when I was dating, but that's kind of like been put on the shelf, so to speak, wink, wink. um, you know, but I did do that. I'm more now, what I'm more about is the stand up, honestly, my podcast, my weekly podcast, Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl, and doing laughter yoga. Which is kind of separate from humor. I promote laughter in a way that's meant to be more wellness related, like breathing, clapping, laughing, that sort of thing.
Breathing, clapping, laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. So laughter yoga is, I started my business Laugh to Live in 2006. And, it's funny. I left my day job and people are like, you can make a living doing that. I'm like, of course not, you idiot. Which is why I have a million
You're
other
so stupid.
No, it's just my passion. Passion doesn't pay. No. But laughter yoga is something that was created by a doctor in India, Dr. Madan Kataria, in like 95. And the idea is, the research is out there, and I don't want to bore people if they don't want to hear all of it, but the research is out there that laughter helps our heart, it helps our mood, our chemicals in the brain, our immune system, all that good stuff. It's been out there since Norman Cousins in the late 60s. And quite frankly, I'm surprised we're not using it more, but we don't laugh enough. So it's like, yes, we laugh at jokes. Yes, we laugh at sitcoms. Yes, we laugh at like stupid TikTok videos or cats and dogs. They're all over the place, but we don't laugh enough. And this doctor started this movement of how can we get more laughter? And the idea is, instead of just like a humorous stimuli and we respond to that, this is like intentional laughter, just like we'd go for a walk, a run, a hike, a bike ride. So we're choosing to laugh. So I lead this for like, wellness workshops, corporate wellness, that sort of thing, where you're like going, ho, 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 ha, 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 he, and literally laughing, which is not easy for everyone to do because it makes some people, I think, uncomfortable to do.
Yeah, there's a social stigma against laughing anymore. It sounds like that guy either lifted something from Patch Adams, or Patch Adams lifted something, like, did they meet one day and one said,
you got your peanut butter and my chocolate.
Yeah, like it feels like I'm like, wait,
you invented grape soda.
Did you ever you've heard about the movie Patch Adams, played by Rod?
Of course, sure, I saw it. Yep.
So Disney kind of did a quick edit on the man's life, right? You remember the romance that he had with that woman in the movie, right?
Oh yes.
It was actually in reality a man.
Oh.
So Disney's like, whoa. What if we didn't have him be a man?
Okay.
So the real Patch Adams, in reality, he was like, I don't want anything to do with this movie. Thanks for the sack of money. La la la. On its way. And
now I have a legitimate question. Does over laughter reduce the amount of stimulant just used for laughter itself? So I mean, if you find something funny, does it desensitize you for something that you may see fake laughing?
I don't know if I understand the question exactly.
So if you're going ha 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 ho ho ho, and then you see something really funny and you're like ha 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 ho ho ho.
Yeah, it doesn't change your quote unquote real laugh. Yeah, no, it doesn't. It's the idea is, and honestly, yeah, it sounds like when you're doing it, it feels a little funny because it is quote unquote fake. Although I like the term, a friend said, how about intentional laughter? Because you're choosing to laugh knowing that really you're doing it. It's not for everyone. Trust me. I know there are people who resist it because I've seen them in my audience.
No, it should be for everyone, honestly, because, if you are, I always say it, if you're cheating on a test, you're still technically learning something. So
true. Okay.
Yeah, people always ask me, Kevin, how are you so happy and upbeat? It's because I ignore every time I feel negative. I just ignore. I don't deal with it. I deal with it by saying, sorry, you're not a part of my day right now. That's how I deal with it. And they say that's the least healthy way to deal with it. But the same people that say that have made more money on depression than pharmaceutical companies, or maybe they go hand in hand. Who the hell knows? But laughter is not just a cheap thing to do. It does work the muscles. The one time I can stand laughter is when I'm watching a sitcom. It always feels like an old thing. Roseanne did not need a laugh track at all. The new episodes are terrible without Roseanne there. Like the Connors.
I stopped watching them after that because I just
I
felt there
did.
was a high level of hypocrisy and stuff going on there.
I did too. And it was nothing to do with like I didn't care that they brought in a politics aspect for a hot second for one episode, right? It was more or less the brutal attacking of people that she made stars. John Goodman, like they weren't everyday names when she got a hold of them. And it's just the she's such a strong female lead that she had to rewrite the whole script and then just for everybody to take a knife right to her back and without hesitation and then continue on with the show as if it was a normal thing to do. And I don't know, man. I don't know how famous people need to get where they just drop their conscience or where they came from or whatever. But if everybody said we're not doing the show without Roseanne, have her come out and apologize over a "you look like a joke." You know what I mean? Like, and
Yep.
that wasn't even a racially motivated joke. This is the same woman that wrote the episode of when DJ has to kiss a little black girl in school. She wrote that episode and literally wrote all the dialogue for. You can't just like fake that kind of stuff. And then just out of an Ambien retreat, which she does have brain damage from getting hit by a car when she was at a younger age and that, but still the person she was talking about, she's like, oh, well, she looks like the Predator meets Al Qaeda. And I'm like, well, if you were to blend both together, I guess maybe Maxine Waters could look like that, but it just felt like they were more driven off of those words. There was no racial slur used off of, by the way, a politician that has been embezzling money for years. And that happens all around the political realm. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm just getting
No. I was gonna say, if you don't mind me adding that, I mean, what you're saying is reminiscent to me. What is one of my Achilles heel here is the Kathy Griffin. How many people threw her under the bus too, and for that reason, like I will not like. To me, Andy Cohen is dead to me, and like what's his face on CNN that giggles all the time. I'm not a big fan of his. I can't think of his name right now, but he's best buddies with Andy Cohen. Like they could not throw Kathy Griffin under the bus quick enough.
Yeah,
and
they were at the New Year's Eve party, drinking, and doing whatever.
Yeah, and watching her documentary, and like again, I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Kathy Griffin, I don't like her." Like, I don't care whether you think she's funny or not, but there's things I admire about her. She's a damn good businesswoman. Like, she just finally got the rights back to all of her stuff, so she owns all of her shit. So it's not like Apple or whoever making money off her. And I mean, and if you watch her documentary, she was like getting death threats. Her sister or whatever that had cancer at the time was getting death threats. People are disgusting, and she's a comedian. And she clearly held up a mask that did not look like a real face. It did not.
By the way, Anderson Cooper.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm just, and I mean, it's nothing against him, but like the two of them could not throw her under the bus quick enough, and I'm just like, I have no use for that shit. I just don't.
Oh no, Anderson. It's almost like they got joy out of it, like, and their ratings go up for whatever reason, and they're told to talk about certain things after a little bit of time. You have to just confess something to the audience and say, hey, that was poor taste from us, and apologize, even bring her on, even it just feels like the now Kathy Griffin holding a bloody head. I mean, I didn't get the joke. That's the worst part I felt about it. I'm like, where's the punchline? I wasn't offended by it. I could care less. Some of her stand-up routine from the early 90s, totally solid stuff, and then she ended up growing her brand out there. She was always good about writing her own jokes and giving people opportunities to open up for her that were lesser known comedians. So like these are things that aren't talked about, and the only one focuses on just because she was anti-Trump kind of person. Now I get it. Some people love politics the same way a group of people out there loves the World Wrestling Federation. You have to realize after a while, though, that these guys can yell enthusiastically as hell over the microphone in any which way possible, but at the end of the day, it's total bullshit. They're not going to do anything, and the storyline is going to come back to whatever you do in your life that changes the way we shape this country.
Yeah, yeah. And one last thing on her, I just appreciate that she created her own basically success. I mean, it wasn't handed to her. Like when she went to Hollywood, it's like you're not attractive enough. You're this, you're that. And she had My Life on the D list, which I used to love. It was like, I'm not a celebrity and this is how I'm making it. So for me, like all the lazy fat fucks that like would mock her, it's like, yeah, why don't you do something, create something for yourself? I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if I'm supposed to curse or not, but
Yeah,
No,
go
you can
for it,
curse
please.
all you want, man.
Yeah, sorry, I don't want to go off on that, but that just pissed me off with that shit. Yeah.
Jannine, tell us about the podcast. How's that going?
It's going well. I'm in my third year of Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. And when I created it, I had always wanted to do something, but I created it during, I guess it was like right after, not during when is the pandemic began and end? I don't know, but it was kind of like 2020, that summer, that I created it. And I had been doing stand-up, mostly stand-up improv throughout the years, but I kind of got back to stand-up and I wanted my own brand. And because my audience is really like what I write it really is for women. So I was creating, trying to be smart, kind of similar to Kathy Griffin and go where the audience would be, going to wineries and things. So I wanted to create my own brand. And I had I taught at King's College briefly part-time for, well, actually 7 years part-time. And I had a graphic design student who created my logo, Funny Wine Girl. And I wanted to make that my brand for stand-up. And then
It was me. It was me.
It was Tony.
No,
I did
it.
All right, it wasn't me.
Lies. No,
I know. Although I was a graphic design student.
Were you okay? Were you
Yeah,
at
I went to
King's?
Marywood.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I was gonna say I didn't recognize you, but okay, fess up.
But I did work at King's. I did work at King's.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this was a student who actually paid attention and was a good student, so I had her work on my logos.
Not me.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you were a great student, Tony.
No, I was horrible. Horrible.
I'll buy that too.
Perfect.
Just as easily.
He's stupid. Look at him.
No, I don't know. But I wanted to like create a podcast, and then I had her create Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl. And initially, I think I was going to incorporate a little bit more about wine. But really, I mean, my background, I have a degree in journalism. I love talking to people. I don't like to use the word interview because I like to keep it as a conversation. But so a lot of people, I'll admit maybe that was a little bit of a mistake because people assume it's about wine. But when I say uncork, I mean open up, as in share and let's talk. So every week I produce a new episode on Thursdays, and I have made it so that it focuses on women. So typically I have a female guest. I do throw in a couple token males from time to time, but I
Damn
like
Hear
them
that,
token
Tony? We
males.
can.
Damn them.
I figure, turnabout's fair play after a freaking lifetime of that shit. So
I like wine. I like wine.
but it's not just about wine, Tony. But okay, we can talk about wine if you do like wine.
All right.
We can have a conversation about that.
I gotta send you a bottle. I actually, I make mead, honey wine.
Okay. Let me tell you, I've only had it, didn't love it, but I've only had it in I went to Ireland once, but I did the typical touristy stuff and people said, "Oh, that's not the right kind of mead to try." So, I need to try something else, I think.
It's basically like a Pinot with undertones of honey. So if you like
Okay.
Pinot, like a drier wine, it's not very sweet right off the bat. About 16.5 alcohol content. So it's
By
more
the way,
like,
if you are looking for honey wine, you can find it on.
you can't find it.
You can.
I have some more brewing up here.
Apparently, you
emails
cannot
to
buy it at the Podguyz Podcast at gmail.com or fuck Joe Biden 2024.
Yeah, you can. We have a whole bunch of different sponsors, which is great. But I don't drink wine.
Shameless
I don't
plugging,
drink anything
Kevin.
anymore. What happened, Tony?
I said shameless plugging, Kevin.
Shameless plugging. You got it. Yeah.
Shameless plugging.
I haven't drank in 5 years. I can't drink anymore. I mean, Jannine, exactly. See,
Wow.
Tony, from someone that knows how much I actually used to drink. That look right there was authentic.
It was authentic, but honest, Kevin,
Jannine,
it's not
say I'm
because
proud
I just
of
like
you
because
and move
I don't
home.
want to give it up. That's why I'm always proud of people who do. I admire you. That's great. I mean, I'm sorry, it's not great that you had to, whatever, but
I know.
I
Kevin's
just-
drinking a Four Loko right now.
I just got a Coca-Cola right here. It's just soda. It's just
well,
soda.
good for you though that you're
5
not
years.
drinking.
I gave it up on Martin Luther King Day, so that way, people are going to be like, hey, Martin Luther King, right? It's like, I don't know, man. This is my sobriety day. So they'd be like, oh, well, all right. I'll shut the fuck up then.
See, now that Kevin has taken down drinking, he's picked up other things like gambling and gay sex.
Well, no, yeah, you're right.
Really?
You're gonna.
You need
Well,
a
no,
hobby, right?
I tried that. What is it called? Black tar heroin. But it sucks when you do too much of it, and people that are paramedics just keep waking you up, and you're like, yeah, what's the big deal?
Narcan.
Yeah, I have to take out the Narcan thing. Like, son of a bitch, I did too much again, right? And they're like, Kev, you gotta learn how to do this one.
Limit yourself.
Practice makes perfect, Tony. One of these days.
There it is.
And see,
Narcan.
nasal spray. The nasal spray. You see, that's what I need to get from the Rite Aid right there. I just need to. No, it's in no joking form. It was a little tricky. I've been trying to quit drinking for a long time, and I was finally successful at the age of 33. Although I can't say I'll never drink again because it's kind of like people that lock their doors. They're probably the first ones that are gonna get their house broken into. So I'll leave the door open to it, knowing that it's a possibility. But I have it very much under control. I haven't smoked cigarettes in 3 years at all. No cigarettes either. I use the Chantix, which is literally, they need to promote it like this. It is the only medication that actually heals the brain damage that happens when nicotine is in your system. Nicotine patches just further along the brain damage. Chantix is the only one that actually does solve the brain damage. Biggest problem, though, they say it's the psychosomatic effect of nightmares. So back in the day, Chantix was told by the FDA that they had to only test on these certain amount of people. Weird enough, the cigarette companies had more money in the pockets of politicians and pharmaceutical companies back then. So the group of people that they told that they could only test on were PTSD war veterans. So they're like, hey, how's the quitting smoking coming along? They're like, great. They're like, any side effects? How would you sleep? He's like, oh, nightmares. Like, oh, write it down.
Nightmares and rampant suicide.
And when you promote something like that, and it's a medication to help your brain just repair itself, and you have to promote it with nightmares now, you will be giving people just one more thing to worry about, and they will get the nightmares.
Wow.
To a degree. Yeah, I didn't get much of a nightmare. I had like one lucid dream, and my life was better, and I woke up and like, ow, back here to reality.
By the way, Arlene says very proud of you, Kevin.
Who's that?
Arlene Zutant.
I don't know. I have her blocked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
It's my Nazi grandmother.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
She said proud of you anyways.
Like she's a card carrying member of you should see she's got all these plates. It's terrible. That's why I blocked her. People are like, how could you block your own grandmother? It's like, because
does she throw her plates like this?
And they're like, but still, you only have one. It's like, dude, what do you talk? You don't go telling people that are like, but it's your dad. It's like, he is the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. Well, but you still talk to him. Like it's not something I plan to do.
Stop it.
But back to Jannine. So where will your next show be, Jannine? You coming up with
Well, you're catching me right after one I just had, which I'm super excited. It went real well. Friday night at Groove Brewing in Scranton. We had a real nice crowd. So that went really well. And
wait, and where was that at?
Groove Brewing in Scranton.
Where's that at?
So they're, obviously craft beer place. They were on North Washington across from the prison, and they moved about a year ago to it was an old auto garage on Sanderson Avenue in Scranton.
Okay.
So it'd be like the Green Ridge-ish into the Pine Brook section of Scranton. Yeah. And it's cool. It's an old
company.
What's that? By the Lace Company. That's exactly right. Yes. The side street that comes out from the Lace Works comes right out there. And it's an old auto garage. Really cool space. They're using the back garage now for events and things. And we were like their first comedy show. So I'll be back there April 26th. And I unfortunately don't have anything else sooner. I did have a ladies event in February in Pittston, but the LBC Distillery, where I've done things, they're closing their tasting room, and they just closed it actually at the end of the month.
Boo!
I know, but they're still going to make their beer, or not beer, it's booze. They make like really good vodka. Swedish Fish is my favorite. But April 26th right now is what's on tap for Groove Brewing.
Have you contacted Lindo Sabatini? He might be interested in that kind of event. He has a Sabatini's Pizzas had bought the building right next door to them.
Wait.
They have a fine beer tasting place, right?
Really? Oh, right down there in Pittston.
Exeter area.
Oh,
Exeter,
okay.
Wyoming.
Yeah, okay.
Wyoming,
Yep.
Exeter.
Yeah, I know, on the avenue there. Yep.
Yeah. Where if you ever have gone to the Avenue, it's basically like time traveling. Just
I've been there. I've definitely been there. And I always used to tease everyone who lived that way. They're like, it's on the Ave, the Ave. Like, of course, on the Ave. Sure.
yeah, because let's make one road dedicated to strip malls. Uh, and
Absolutely.
it's strip malls that slowly turn into like now malls are kind of a dying thing
Yes.
because the internet is such a high focus right now. So whenever now the buildings are still going to be brick and mortar there. So when you see like something turn from a CVS into an actual person's apartment, and you're like, huh, well, that didn't look like it should be there. you're like, hey man, where's your apartment? And it's like, oh, right between the Garrity's and the closed down Blockbuster. I'm right there, right in that one little spot.
That
But
one little
yes,
stretch. Yeah. I am going to have an online event, though. I'll give a shout out to or plug February 7th. Because I had to cancel that in-person one for Pittston, I'm going to do like a mini version of it for free on my Facebook page, Funny Wine Girl Jannine. And it was supposed to be an evening of rom and com. So my friend Tina Gallagher writes sassy, sexy romance novel. She is going to read an excerpt from her book, and I'm going to do some funny stuff. And we'll, just invite people to join us February 7th at 7 p.m. on my Funny Wine Girl Jannine Facebook page. That'll be a fun night.
nice.
Ooh.
Now, Tony, the thing I always loved about Jannine is whenever I see her at the open mics, and these northeastern Pennsylvania open mics, and even nowadays, I don't really go to too many that
Me
much,
neither.
and because it gets really twisted, it gets really weird. But the thing that I love about Janice is that she's always has a very positive yet accurate attitude towards them, and it comes with years and years of experience while doing comedy when you can hear somebody say, now I know why I don't really come out to these two too much. When you got now you got to understand, this is only after.
But Kevin is for the exposure.
No. This was just if you got a show coming up and you want to see how it sounds on a microphone, you want to see how it gets out there, and you got like a crowd of 7, and you can't count comedians, so you got a crowd full of 7. And 4 people just mumbling over each other. They can't wait to hear their own voices. There's a live show going on right in front of them. They know about it, and then there's literally having conversation loudly. They're trying to overtalk your microphone because they can't wait to talk to each other right across. And by the way, these are the same people sitting front row, and the same people that also say, "Why do I get picked on comedy shows?" It's like, I don't know. Did you know this was happening tonight?
And there's nobody else.
I love that, Kevin. Positive but accurate. That's nice.
I love it when people get belligerently drunk, and then they come out to the comedy show and they're like, "Why would you pick me?"
No, I love that people say, "Oh, you must love," like when I started doing my winery shows. "Oh, you must love it. Everybody gets drunk. That must be fun." I'm like, no. Absolutely not. Like they're just because women too. I mean, for the most part, women are pretty good, but when they're trashed, I had one in Wyalusing at a winery there. They had a school bus full of teachers, young teachers who came down.
God.
They were falling off their chairs, and it actually got out of hand. That was back in the early days when I started these, and the owners of the place weren't cutting them off. They weren't doing anything. I'm like, believe it or not, we actually, and I had Megan Hanley, who's doing awesome, kicking butt in she lives in Brooklyn, and she's doing all kinds of great shit. This was early on in her career, and she was with me, and no joke, they also owned a funeral home. So we were performing in the funeral home next door to the winery. So where the viewings would be. Interesting side note there. But it's like, I don't want to try to tell my jokes to people who are in the back, just like slobbering drunk, and the few women in the front who are trying to listen. It's a shit show. It's like, no, that's not what I want at all.
Yeah.
No, yeah, it especially with wine or any alcohol, what can happen is you can have people that are showing up already pre-gaming, right? Because you can't just drink when you get there, I guess, right? Or
Oh my God,
they're
especially a bus of school teachers. You know that they
They
got
probably drank on the way
every
down,
cool-
right?
yeah.
No, Kevin, I don't know if you've ever been on a winery tour.
I have not been on a
You have not.
winery
Okay,
tour.
so I'm going to give you from A to Z as far as what happens, right?
Okay.
So you get up at 7, 8 in the morning, right? You have a cooler full of wine. You have no snacks, and you have a 2-hour drive by bus, the bumpiest ass bus you'll ever have in your life. And you're driving, let's say, AKA the Finger Lakes. Okay. So you have the Finger Lakes, and as soon as you get to the Finger Lakes, of course, like from here, roughly 2 hours. So you're pre-gaming 2 hours in the bus, in a bumpy bus with wine, no breakfast, no snacks. You get to your first winery and they load you up. And I mean load you up from bar end to bar end. They're pouring drinks. They're like, hey, you should come and get this over here. You should come and test this. Already smashed at like 10 in the morning. Absolutely smashed at 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
Lined up across the bar. And like I said, now they have bags and boxes. And I mean boxes. And they sell you, I don't know, 8 to 12 bottles at a time at these different wineries. So they may have one thing. And what's the one thing that actually goes with wine, Kevin?
Cheese.
They sell cheese.
Okay.
Why the hell not?
Yeah.
They sell crackers, chips.
Tony's describing the male version of the trip. Women actually do pack snacks. We pack a shit ton of snacks.
There you go.
We've got cheese. We've got crackers. We've got mini sandwiches. We do it right.
Because Tony's describing it the way that he did it. And I know how
exactly.
He's like, I woke up 5 minutes before I had to get in my car. I put on my hat and I'm off to get fucked up.
By 12 o'clock in the afternoon, everybody's barfing on each other. It's good times. You're on your way to your second wine.
No, Tony, be more accurate. By 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you're yelling at your child, Hunter, get them. Don't touch
this is a wine tour, Kevin. A wine tour.
Oh, wait, but can I address this? You have a child, Tony?
I do.
Okay, no. So you're talking about why. So part of what, and I talk about this on stage now because it drives me nuts. Every time I go to a winery or a brewery, I think it's a millennial thing, bringing their fucking kids. What's talking
up with that, right?
Babies, infants in their arms, toddlers, strollers. I'm sorry. I mean, again, I don't have kids, so maybe that's my problem.
No. It's not a millennial thing, Jannine.
The amount of people that are carrying a baby in one arm and 3 bottling in the other hand.
Tony, I think I got exactly. It's. I'm gonna nail down the demographic of person that does this. All right. It's a rare breed of white trash hipsters. Okay.
Love it.
That are bringing their kids around to wine tours these are the same people that deem it to be educational. Oh, the kids need to learn about wine, and then they'll bring up one country, France. It's like, dude, what the fuck? Hold on now, France. French people have a history of chopping off the head of some lady that told me to eat cake. Now, if anyone tells me to eat some cake, I'm going to eat some cake. I'm fine with the idea.
I don't know if you've ever been the partaker. No, Jannine, I don't know if you've ever been the partaker of watching, probably at 1 o'clock, one of the ladies who has had too much to drink and are falling into the grape gardens.
We're talking noon, 1 o'clock, right? Not 12.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I used to be one of those ladies like a long time ago, over 10 years ago, 12 years ago, before I learned self-control, because I would try everything. And then I reached a point of maturity after my 40s where I'm like, early 40s maybe, where I said, you know what? I hate super sweet wine. Why am I tasting it? Because I'm getting drunk and belligerent, which no one really likes. I'm going to get sick. So let's just taste what I like, or at least a range of what I like.
True. And you pack more snacks.
And I do. I bring more snacks now. So I've learned through the years. I've definitely learned through the years.
People do get romantic about describing the wine, though. You know how they're like, oh, do you see the legs? We're gonna swish it around.
Oh
They
yeah, you got to
swish it.
swirl to see the legs.
They sniff it. They sniff it. Now, they should have the same romance about any other drug, like meth. You know, like they should be like, oh God, it's a clean meth. Ah, they rip their own skin off.
Who the hell's saying it's a clean meth?
I'm not familiar with meth. I've never.
It is
partaken,
taken from
so I
the
don't
finest
know.
of Robitussin and sulfidridrine.
It's got a smoky charcoal finish.
All
Now you're
drugs are
talking.
not treated equally, is what I'm saying, Tony. And they're just like, oh, blueberry crack. What the? Come out the next.
Sounds delicious.
It sounds good.
So anyways, right? So
Well,
here,
Sparky's got some breaking news there, Tony, on the big
that's
board.
perfect because that's where I was just gonna break into.
Sparky, what do you got there? Flip that big board around. By 1 p.m.
That's perfect. By 1 p.m. on the wine tour.
For our
Everybody
non-viewing
viewed
audience
it.
right there, Sparky has a very detailed picture of what a school bus looks like while people are hanging out of windows and on top of the roofs, puking all sorts of excrement out because of the after effects of too much alcohol, right? Am I right on that one, Sparky?
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Yeah. I've seen the expectant moms who are pushing the carriages around, or if they're, they have the baby in tow in the arm with the wine in the other hand, saying, let's happen to grab another. And then I've had the full family experience, of course, with like not necessarily my mom or anything, but watching the moms take the kids out of their arms because they were so belligerently drunk and didn't know, what to do in general.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm used to going to wineries and I expect the patrons to be like, crying, wetting their pants, falling down drunk, but they're usually part of a bachelorette party. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And now
Of
we're
course.
seeing actual toddlers and infants doing that.
It's true.
Yeah. I'm not a fan. That's all I can say. I'm not a fan. I was at Wallenpaupack Brewing Company last year and I saw like this woman had a literal infant in her arms, maybe 3-4 months. She's drinking a beer. She had a whatever partner, friend, boyfriend, husband. I don't know what the hell he was, but he was supposed to be watching the other child, the toddler that was walking around the whole patio while servers were coming out with beers in their hand. And I'm like, yeah, see, I'm not into I know I was a Hillary Clinton fan, but it takes a village. I don't want to be part of that village. I'm sorry. I'm not raising your kids at the winery or the brewery.
Oh yeah.
There are some people that say that you can still have a glass of wine while pregnant and not affect the baby at all.
I've read that. Yeah.
10 to 15 after you have the kid is the
that's just the thing. On the side of a beer can, it says in order of importance of how they feel. It's a government warning on the side of a beer can. It says the first warning on there is to not operate heavy machinery while drunk.
very important.
It's because you could be a danger behind the wheel. Then the second warning on there is suggested not to drink while pregnant. And if you do drink while pregnant, your baby may come out, and this was the word lawmakers agreed on. Your baby may come out defected. Defected was the word that they agreed on. So it just always got me thinking, like, how long did it take us as society to figure out that the babies weren't coming out right after being shitty drunk? Right? Or you're just like, whoa, is it a boy or a girl? It's not breathing right now. And holy shit. What is causing this? They're like, I don't know, maybe full moons. Like, there had to have been an immediate way to figure it out. But
Well, women were also kind of almost encouraged in the 50s to have a cigarette to calm their nerves while they had, while they're pregnant.
The actual waiting room, the actual doctor's waiting room experience was not invented by doctors. It was invented by the Philip Morris tourist company, to be honest with you, where you would have everybody packed in there. And because how much sense does it make, right off the bat? How much sense does it make to have 15 people in a waiting room that all have the same time to see the doctor? This sounds like a timeshare trap, and it basically was. So they'd have all the same time, and the nurse would come out there and ask everybody, oh, hey, would you like a cigarette while you wait? The doctor's very busy right now. And then the next step was whoever said no, because normally influence is garnered by the first person that says yes. And that would mean that the second person might say yes, and the third person might say yes, while all in the waiting room, just the influence of just watching and observing the person do it. And even if that wasn't happening, they'd sometimes send in just a person to smoke out there anyways, just to say, oh, since I have these cigarettes here, as some kind of a subliminal bullshit, like cigarette companies have been doing something evil for years, and they haven't had to really atone for it either, because they're literally selling a product that if you don't have it, you feel like you're going to die. Your emotions are taking over. So these aren't good businessmen. They're just pretty evil at dispelling a chemical and bribing politicians for years. So after you're done in the waiting room, you go to another waiting room to wait for the doctor. And when the nurse offers you another cigarette and you say no, the doctor was then instructed to come in there and say, hey, you look a little stressed out after you're there for an hour of just waiting. And the only reason you're there, the doctor, is because you don't feel good. Then once the doctor, who was told to be trusted this whole time, says, you look a little stressed out, would you like a cigarette? And would write you a prescription for cigarettes. Or sometimes, remember the medicinal alcohol during the Prohibition times? That was a big thing. Now we have medical marijuana. And I don't know what your stance is on medical marijuana, but it really feels like a trick. Not to say I'm anti marijuana or whatever, but it's it should have never.
No. Oh, he's freezing up.
Uh-oh.
Getting censored.
The marijuana company stopping him.
I was gonna say the government kind of stepped in there and squashed that right
Dang
up.
you, Beyond. Fake meat.
Shutting that right down.
Oh, I totally get where he's coming from, though.
Yeah, I know friends whose, children or relatives, whatever, have a card. And, I like anything, I'm sure it could become a problem. I'm not for or against. I personally don't have it, but I do know that it seems to be helping some people, but there's problems in anything,
Oh, yeah, of course. There's people who way abuse the situation. And me and Sparky, we've been friends for, God, how many years, Spark?
Over 20.
But yeah, about 22 years, somewhere around there. And we have mutual friends that were like smoking every day of their lives. And it just becomes beyond an addiction. So if you're constantly doing it because you're trying to relieve that high, I can see the addiction. But if you're just doing it to do it because of you're doing it, then it's a whole different ballgame. You just incorporated it into your life as like a natural course of action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, there are people who are using it for anxiety and for certain health conditions. And I think if that works, great. I mean, back in college, I knew people who smoked pot all the time, and they didn't seem the brightest, I gotta say. I mean,
that's true. That's
but
true.
I didn't do it. And I mean, for me, I smoked pot twice in my life, never had great results with it. Like, I was just like, I got paranoid the first time. And actually in the past couple of years, someone gave me a brownie. And this was from the street, so to speak. It wasn't from a dispensary. I had a quarter of it.
You ate street brownies?
Yes, a quarter of it. And I have to say, I did not like how it made me feel. Like my friend took a piece of it and she's like, I'm fine. I don't know. And I felt like Lily Tomlin in The Big Chair from back in the day when she was that little, and she shrunk. I felt like I was shrinking in my seat, and my friend, her head looked like it was turning into like a light bulb. Like I'm like, she says she's fine. I wouldn't want to operate machinery right now. I wouldn't want to drive. I did not like how it made me feel, but I do understand that things affect people differently. So, I mean, I finally, after almost 3 years, finally got COVID. I thought I was, going to escape it. And in November, the end of November, after Thanksgiving, I got it. One night I took Tylenol PM because for 3 or 4 nights I couldn't sleep. I had never taken Tylenol PM in my life, and now I know I don't want to take that either. It had me like tweaking. I was like,
Yeah, it
I
does.
did not like the effects of it. It didn't work for me.
Well, that's just the thing. The campaign against marijuana was so ridiculously put. It's almost like, here, I'll give you an example with Tylenol PM. He took one Tylenol PM, and 30 years later, he's working at a gas station. Dropped out of high school. Like, wait, what? I don't think that was a Tylenol PM, though. I just think his life was bad. Oh, no.
I missed that commercial.
No. It was
I say I didn't see that one either. What the
it was
hell?
like, like he took one hit of a joint and then started to rape. It's like, dude, I don't know if that really was marijuana related.
No, that's true, Kevin.
No, we found a joint next to the dead body. Like, what?
I knew it was Kevin. I knew it.
It's true.
Like, and that's why I don't smoke pot anymore. Because of the. You know what? I got out of mine the same way, the new way that everybody gets out of theirs. I just paid $83 million and we're done. We are.
That's all it takes. That's
We're
all
good.
it takes.
Which is, I did the math. Like, how many can Jeff Bezos afford then?
Oh.
Like,
Sparky.
see, that's what happened. Yeah, Harvey Weinstein's check started bouncing
Sparky, you're slacking on this.
the whole time. Oh no, he's not. He's getting all revved up right there. You see the look in his eyes. Zoom
Nah,
in.
he was like stroking his hair. He's taking a nap. I'm like, fuck,
He
man, this
does
is a
nap.
prime
What
time
a-
opportunity for you, Sparky.
This
To
is
come
an
out of the drawing.
opportunity.
Is he like a courtroom artist? That's pretty
He
cool.
is.
And he used to be until they asked him not to be. Like he used to just go there and draw and then go up to the judge and say, look what I did. And then he'd be like, who
Son of
are
a
you,
bitch,
sir?
this is why we pay
Yeah.
you, Sparky.
Oh, it would have been a fun courtroom when the guy jumped over the bench toward the judge. That would have been a fun time to be a courtroom artist,
Oh,
right?
hell yeah.
Like
Yeah,
draw like
exactly.
Superman, sort of.
Yeah.
So what are the aspirations, Jannine, for the future of the podcast? Do you have some other endeavors coming on or?
Well, I am excited about aspirations. I definitely want to make it it's hard to have a podcast to make money, as I'm sure you guys know. That is something, or some kind of sponsorship to at least grow my listenership, because I'll admit I'm not trying to fool anybody. It's a small listenership and it's mostly local, but I do have some folks outside the state. I have some international, Canada, Germany. But I'm excited about the guests I have. I recently had on State Senator Rosemary Brown. I'm going to have on someone who's running for the Attorney General position in Pennsylvania. So I'm excited about the guests I have. I'm passionate about the content I'm creating, and I just wanted to reach a broader audience, and eventually to have some kind of sponsorship would be great. But I guess just grow the audience would be the biggest goal.
I love that. That's it. That's everything that we aspire for, is like not necessarily, I don't care about getting paid. And not to say that I don't care about getting paid. I would love.
But if you did care about getting paid, you just go to merchbooth.com.
True,
You just go to
that's
merchbooth.com. You
Yeah.
go to the podcast section, scroll on down to the Podguyz Podcast. And you can
No.
pick up
Even
one
better,
of
go to
these,
Spotify. Just go to Spotify. I don't even care. You could listen 30 times to 30 different podcasts of our shows, and I would be happy to get paid through Spotify.
I'd be even happier if they did both, Tony. You know what? I think the levels
Yeah,
of
that's true.
happiness
That's
go
true.
up, If somebody
true.
shoved $1 million in my pocket, I'm not going to say, what the fuck's wrong with you? Get back here. And start chasing them and throwing their own money at
Yeah,
them.
you're not wrong.
So
We
I
all
think-
want money, let's face it.
right. Like I think a good goal and an achievable goal is to be able to listen to a podcast and be able to communicate correctly with your audience. Jannine, you could always do that. That's why I'm like, this is gonna be a fucking breeze today, as it has been. So I think that's like a normal idea. Normally, when people come up to me and they say, hey, what should I do to make a podcast? I'm like, you have to be able to listen to yourself and stand the idea. And if you can't do that, then how do you expect anybody else to do that? Like, obviously, you have to get rid of the ums, the ahs, the well, the you knows, and the brain farts that come along with normal speech. Go ahead, Tony.
Kevin, we have to raise the question that you raised to everybody.
Oh
that we
yeah,
have on
Jannine,
this
I have to ask you this.
Not to
Did
say
you-
that this is the crescendo.
This is a normal question, and we very seldom have a no about the idea, but every now and then we do. But Jannine,
And
after
by
everything,
the way, we've also been taping for an hour. It may not even seem like it, but we've been
Doesn't even
taping
feel
for an
like
hour.
it. You see, this is just like plastic surgery, which people say, Kev, how do you look so young? And then I just name some terrible stuff like stem cells. I'm like,
Yeah.
the souls of the unborn.
He technically just
really-
uses the placenta wrap on his face.
Yeah, just every day. And I know what you're thinking. Damn, that must get expensive. I know, but I steal them from people in the hospital.
That's true.
Wouldn't believe how far this white privilege gets you, where you're like, oh
What
no,
the hell do
I am a doctor.
unborn fetuses need them for?
Oh, I would believe, Kevin.
But Jannine, after everything that you have accomplished so far in life, because it is not over, would you consider this moment on the Podguyz podcast the peak of your career?
Am I allowed to say no?
Yes, of course you're allowed to say no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I would not consider this the pinnacle of success.
Carl Sagan was on our Carl Sagan impersonator was on our podcast. Yeah, and he did say yes. So
wow.
Yeah,
we had a Stephen Hawking impersonator come on.
No, that was actually just I had a robot go into the phone here. And
okay.
Like
I'm
Stephen
sorry.
Hawking.
Yeah.
We had him say a bunch of terrible stuff. This was before the scandal, Jannine. And now that show is just aged perfectly, where it's just like, now everybody's like, is that really Stephen Hawking? It's like, well, we'll never tell.
I'm never saying anything.
Yeah. I guess
Keep
he
it
wants
between you.
Well, no, you can't. That's another thing I've heard where people are like, isn't it terrible? Stephen Hawking was a rapist. It's like, it's even worse for the women that couldn't get away from him because he's on a wheelchair. Like you got to be really out of shape if you just can't run a little faster than that chair or like, I don't know, upstairs or something and be like,
no,
I got away from you by going 3 steps up here, sir.
Let me alliterate this a little bit.
Okay.
He's not qualified as a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
He paid people to have sex with him.
Okay.
They were underage.
So statutory, basically.
Yeah, okay. I think the cringier, and it's probably somewhat on the lines of true. I think the cringier that the person looks, the higher the charge goes, no matter what the idea is. The more the judge has to imagine the
uglier the rape value.
Yeah. Like if I had to imagine Stephen Hawking naked, as I am right now, I'd be like 10 years in jail. That's where we're starting off, pal. We're starting off right there. But speaking of Sparky was on Epstein Island before, and this is why he doesn't talk that much, is because everything he has to use is again the court of law. So Sparky, what's going on with that big board there, my man?
Something else. I took up farming.
Oh.
Sparky's
Go ahead.
Sparky's new strain, the Madonna. This will make you want to go on holiday. Oh my God. Sparky. I guess that is the special type of marijuana right there.
That is the only weed
I'm hearing
strain
Madonna right now, holiday in my head right now.
This could be, people are, I had to get on a little bit of a rant over because people were complaining about how she's not dancing like she used to. Like, dude, she's 65 years old.
People will complain about anything. Can I tell you? And this is years and years ago. They bitched about her Super Bowl halftime performance. And this is like over 10 years ago when she was already like over 50. She's wearing a freaking Viking hat on her head, like a chest plate, like 30, 40 pounds of shit. And she's on a tight wire. And they were complaining about it. Beyonce went out there, shook her head and went, whoa. And they were like amazed by her performance. So people are idiots.
Beyonce just solved the world's problem.
And I mean that I don't get her, and like I don't know. Anyway,
I have the ultimate question.
Yes.
All right. So would you classify yourself as a feminist?
Interesting question, Tony. I would, but that name, whatever. Like many labels are not always good. And I first heard it in college when I dated a guy who used to listen to Rush Limbaugh, and he introduced me to the term feminazi. But I will say, thankfully I can grow, and I hope people can. For the most part, I know I have. In college, I judged women who stayed home with their kids and didn't take a job outside. But what I learned through the years, what a true feminist, in my opinion, is supporting the choices women make. no matter what they are. So yes, I guess I would consider myself a feminist because I'm still all about like white male privilege. And I know many white men who are like, what are you talking about? Like they don't get it. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You wouldn't
Oh
get
no,
it.
I've
But
been
anyway.
I've been pre-qualified for jobs I don't even know how to do, but being I sound how I sound and I look how I look, they were just like, sir, scalpel, here you go. And I'm like, damn it, I have been way over my head. Like, and by the way, when you are failing upwards, they call it, they're like, well, Mr. Neary, Dr. Neary, this is the 17th patient you killed this week, but don't worry, you'll get them next week. I'm like, why
No
is
wonder why
anybody
you're a
checking my
comedian.
credentials? There's not, I'm not really a doctor.
Yeah,
No,
sadly, yeah.
there is a stigma right now when it comes to even females in politics or in any position of power, and where a guy could come in there, look ha 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 happy go lucky, but if a woman gets in there and if she comes in happy go lucky, they're like dumb, and she comes in like angry, they're like what a bitch. And it's like, whoa, buddy, is there any medium ground? And if medium ground is to be found, they then go for the next weapon and they say, lesbian. Then look at her husband, bald.
You're
Like,
gonna open up a door here that, believe me, I'm just gonna like come busting through this fucking thing because we live in a country which is supposed to be the greatest on earth, and we've yet to have a female leader because, and I hate to say it, fucking fragile white males can't stand a woman in power, regardless of what. Hillary Clinton was an incredibly smart woman. And I will say this is just on my mind for recently. 2016 with that election, I was teaching that at that time at King's College. The next day after the election, I was emotional, right? And I had some tears in my class. Some of the women in my class had tears. I had this conversation with my cousin's husband, who I love them, by the way. He's a state trooper, former state trooper, man's man, conservative, blah, blah, blah. We had this conversation and he proceeded to tell me that that was unprofessional. And, you can't get emotional, whatever. And I wish I had said to him, because we've had conversations since and I love him, but it's like, what's also emotional? Slamming the shit out of somebody, which cops do all the time. Men do all the time. But we focus on tears like, oh, that's just wrong. You know what's wrong? Smashing the shit out of somebody is wrong as well. And what he couldn't understand, his white male privilege, that would have been a historic day for women in this country. That's something. So for me, for that 2 minutes that I was quote unquote unprofessional by showing that I was fucking human, that's how he deemed it. But it's just like, yeah. I'm sorry. I'll go off on this because believe me,
I enjoy it when you go off on stuff. That's why I'm kind of poking the bear there. I'm right on board. I'm right on board with you that there is always. And it's been an inherent stigma on women or anybody, because we're all somewhat influenced by not just TV, but what people are and what people are allowed to do. We're glorified by sports stars. And by the way, when the men went to war, the women played baseball, and then they were told to not anymore, even though it was very popular. Women's baseball was super popular, and it's the one sport that was actually, if you watch back on those, it's the one sport that was actually enjoyable to watch, where you're not like, oh, wow, this is kind of lame. Like the WNBA, I can watch it a little bit, but then I'm like, am I really watching the best game here? And I'm not. I would rather the ball size to be the same regulatory size to the hoop or whatever the diameter difference is. I don't like the extra advantage when it comes to women's golf. Yeah, give them an extra advantage a little bit. Throw the tees up there for all, purpose, for all intents and purposes or whatever. That doesn't really affect too much of the whole thing. But when the ball's a different size, here the damn baseball, the ball was the same size. The sport did not change. It wasn't home run dependent. A lot of running, a lot of coordination was going on. So it was actually much more fun for people to watch. It was more watchable. You didn't have to have them out there in dresses. You've had a lot of any lawyer I've ever had in my life, I've only picked women because I always say that they always have much more to prove than a man will ever have to prove. A man will only have more money to take from another person and a convincing tone to do so. A female lawyer has a lot to prove. Hillary had so much to prove in Arkansas that I think the reason that people could bring up her unethical decisions on who she represented was because she wanted to prove how good she was to represent the worst of the worst. Not to say that the ladder of the party. Not to say the Republican Party is any better on that side of the law or there's any ethical behavior at all going on. Just one of these days, and it might take another 10 years. Look at Nikki Haley. She got railroaded because, you can't sit on the board of the UN and Boeing at the same time, and then suddenly Boeing gets all these contracts. She gets a bonus and all that nice crap. It just doesn't pass the eye test at all. And you can't call yourself. You also can't call yourself
in a year.
Well, Tony, you can't call yourself the brown woman while looking so damn. I'm 1/3 Native American, right? I'm 1/3 Tuscarora, but I never say that in like public speak. I'm not like, hey, by the way, I'm kind of brown. No, I don't look that way, so I just don't like throw it out there like that. So by her not even addressing the Civil War as a slavery issue and saying like, well, big government. You know what else was big government at the time? The Constitution at one time in America, when not even ratified from 1776 to 1789, the introduction of the Constitution was seen as big government being thrown in there. Now you have constitutionalists saying that if we don't protect this one document, well, now we're going to be big government, when in fact the Constitution has right there in it that we could just change this up anytime we damn well please, which Scalia calling it a dead document then is probably more correct. It becomes alive when we bury it in Pet Cemetery and it comes back looking and feeling like something else.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm not someone to cling to the Constitution. I'm sorry. That was when men had powdered wigs and women were, treated like shit. So
yeah,
like whenever kind of are. So
I want to clear up one thing. I don't mean feminism as in like true feminism. I just meant it as encouraging women to do better and to be better.
Well, and what is your definition or anyone's definition of true feminism? I mean, that's kind of
that's a really good point.
I don't want to take it in the wrong
way. No, but that's questionable.
You're all about empowering women to do better than.
And you know what happens? You know what happens to a good cause most of the time? Some people come up with a great idea for a really good cause like feminism, right? And anything, just like anything else, the worst ideas are put a big spotlight on. Like sometimes feminism brought up the idea of taking rights away from people. Same thing, the way masculinism or toxic masculinity, which is a real thing and it's always going on constantly, wants to take rights away from people. So instead of just everyone being on the same playing field and us agreeing that we're all humans and we're all really good people if we want to be, loving towards each other, instead of doing that, people take advantage of the emotional aspect of the idea. And they just take their own platform to it and turn it into a political thing. When in reality, it should just be a humanly acceptable thing that not only can.
That's all I'm saying. It's the human experience of feminism, just as much as saying, do you encourage men to do better as well? And the answer is yes. You encourage all of
I do, but I have no problem saying I focus on women. I'm not going to shy away from that. And I won't apologize. And we live in an age where it's almost like I feel sometimes like I have to, and I won't, because I'm not going to pretend like we haven't lived in a world, especially in this country, where white men have had the privilege. Yeah. And so I'm not going to sit here and go, I want us all to do better. I do want us all to do better. But if I can provide an opportunity to uplift women, that's what I do.
100%.
So if it's called feminism, that's great. And I know women who are like, well, I'm not a feminist. They almost act like it's a problem. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. But
because it's become such a derogatory word.
Yeah. Well, every word is
encourage women to be not necessarily better than men, but that's what they've classified it as, in order to say, oh, well, we're bashing men. No, you're not bashing men. You're trying to get women to focus and realize that they can do better and will do better if they put their mindset forward.
Well, it's not just about putting our mindset forward, because I think we've been doing that. But
I don't think everybody has. And not to say that brings in a whole set of different situations. Because I've seen many of white men who don't necessarily classify themselves as, having white privilege, but don't understand what they need to do.
Tony, I think Jannine is probably best to deal with how to help women be their best selves, because Jannine has always been good at doing that for herself. So for her to teach somebody else to do so is just playing to your strengths all around.
Well, yeah, and not just teaching them, but giving them opportunities because I can. So like doing my shows, they've been women's shows by women for a reason, because like every other field, I mean, Kevin, comedy doesn't pay. And I've actually had some
exposure.
Some local assholes who had told me that I was funny for a woman. And this is a person who's a man who wasn't funny for a tree, never mind for a man. But I mean, like,
can I guess? I won't guess.
Michelle
Morgan says hi, by the way.
After the show, we'll guess.
Yes, absolutely. You can guess. He's not well liked. He's not well liked by a lot of people. But anyway, so I chose this because it's like, no, I want a female lineup, because I'm going to give them an opportunity, pay them well, like not just like, hey, you can drink all the beer you want tonight. No, that's not how it works. I'm going to pay you in real money that you can actually use to buy shit that you want.
My wife made.
Yeah. Here, have 3 wines. No,
I made borscht. Eat up.
And give them the platform to do their jokes, and for a group that actually appreciates them mostly. I mean, it's whatever. Anyway, I'm just
in Russia, people don't do jokes.
Jannine, we always appreciate you. I told Tony, I said, and I've been bringing your name up for as long as we've been doing this podcast. I said, you know what? When she's not busy one of these days, we got to get Jannine Luby on. We had Tony constantly getting more people on. I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I got busy doing comedy as well. And finally, we get to have you on here to not only provide every aspect of wine, but feminism and comedy, local comedy especially. It's the weirdest thing. You go outside of this area, you go to like Manhattan, Broadway Comedy Club. They're like, hey, do another show. It's not like in local spotlight areas where they're like, you have to know the bartenders. Like, well, wait, what? Can I just be funny and do it? It's like, oh, no. We're only going to give you 5 minutes. And the person that said that they had an hour's worth of comedy, you're going to have to sit through that. Like, what are you talking about? No, Jannine's always, I've seen Jannine said, you can still be a guy and laugh at it. They're still funny jokes. Like, what the, I just need to, I bet you, if you give me 3 guesses, I bet you I could name who the hell it is.
I think you can.
Oh yeah.
The countless comedians from this area that have a half hour of penis jokes is ungodly. Like really ungodly. You can. It's quite unfathomable, actually.
Well, can I tell you Friday night show? So Friday night show was a departure for me in the sense that I had it at Groove, and it wasn't an all women's show. It was because Groove has a lot of couples that come, and we said, okay, we'll make it for everybody. And I threw on a quote unquote, I teased him that I threw on a token male, and I had Jeremy Pryal, who I like him a lot. And so that's what I only use guys that I like, that aren't going to just get up there and talk about their dicks or do like gross, I shouldn't say gross, because you know what, you want to talk about
there's a lot of them.
Whatever you want to talk about, fucking or slamming, or but whatever you're doing to some whore, whatever words you want to use, that's fine, but it's not in my show. Jeremy's not that kind of guy. Jeremy, Paul Spratt, I've worked with these guys, I love them. So Jeremy
was Paul Spratt. He's a funny dude.
He's very funny.
Steinberg been up to? Jay better get out of his cave right there. Was he on kid number 2 there rolling around?
Well, I think he only has the one, but is she pregnant? I don't know. Is she having a second? Maybe.
I keep in touch with them still, and she's me and Paul. I ran into him the one time we were doing a basement show, right? No heat in the place. We both swept up, and then the headliner wasn't a headliner. You know what I mean? I'm looking at Paul. I said, "What are you gonna do?" He's like, "I don't know." He's like, 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, yeah, same here. He's like, "Hey, who's headlining?" I'm like, "It's not us. I mean, and we don't know them. You want to really stick around for it?" So, I don't want to go bashing too much, but the headliner wasn't better than the Uber trip home.
Well, you'll have that, yeah.
Yeah,
those Uber people, they're tricksters. They're funny people.
Yeah, no, it does. No, I know. Pryal. Pryl's, geez, he's got a kid now, beautiful family. He's still really funny. You got like a solid lineup of people right there. We just did the Lit Show with Dave Savage, Timmy Mattos, Brad Todd was there. He popped in.
Oh, okay.
I was like,
Haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, I know. He was, of course, back in the day, he was doing the clean comedy with Joe Bryan. I used to pop in on it.
Yeah.
The old open micer wisecracker crew that you could kind of everybody knew that if certain comics were there, it was going to be a good show, and if you had a good audience, you were gonna all everybody was going to have a nice set or in a nice lineup, and then it kind of turned. Everything kind of turned real quick. I don't want to say when, but it just you got to keep moving and you got to keep going to a different open mic, see if there's one indicator that an open mic is done, and it's always when an inside joke is used amongst the comics, and then you look around and there's no audience anymore. They're just there for themselves, sort of thing.
They're just waiting around to get paid.
It's just workshop at that point.
Oh yeah.
It's not. You're not really testing this out on a live audience. You're telling jokes to your friend, and you just so happen to have a microphone.
Yeah. Well, I'm too lazy, and I'll say too old because I'll tease myself. I want to be in bed by 10 normally, so that's why I don't go to open mics. It's like nothing against any that are going on, and I mean, I keep saying I'd love to try the one that Rich Howells runs at the V Spot, but I want to go to bed. I'm usually in bed by 10.
We're gonna get him on our show at some point in time, whenever he pops in.
We did the celebrity guest judge thing at the Big Break competition with Rich, and he was he's always very insightful when it comes to the music scene, and we were just going off of crowd reaction. When I judge something, by the way, and it's on a 1 to 10 scale, 5 means average, just if we're going by what numbers are doing, right? 10 cured all diseases because 10 doesn't exist, right? And world peace is now a thing because of that song you just played. So 10 doesn't exist, and 0 started World War III, and everyone now hates each other. So 0 doesn't exist, but somewhere in the middle, 5s and 5.5s and 6.5s exist. So our scores were looking like normal accuracy, in my opinion. But it's a judgment competition, so people were like, a 4.5. I gave the one kid a 1 for preparation because he didn't have an instrument. So I'm like, what are you preparing for? You didn't have.
He had a track.
Had a CD player. There's CD 1 point. The rest,
yeah.
I'm sorry, man. You just got a lot of tattoos on your face there, and kudos for that. I'll give you 2 points.
Super nice guy. Like
very nice. Super nice.
Very, very nice.
If you want to know my true judgment, I'm gonna try to give it to you. And if you don't like it, I could agree that you're not gonna like it then. Some people do like it, some people don't. It's not like I'm not, hey, there's a whole other audience out there besides just myself that might love everything that he's doing by putting a CD player in there and lip syncing eventually and burping into the microphone going, and you're like, okay, that's not my style. I don't know who the fuck likes it, but it's a free.
And not to say it's professional karaoke, but anywho's, we need to wrap up the show, Kevin.
Wrapping it up there.
Jannine,
we're rolling out the red carpet for you to please plug your podcast, upcoming shows, shout outs, birthday wishes, dreams, hopes, all that nice stuff out there into the universe for everyone to hear.
All right. Well, check out Funny Wine Girl on Facebook. I will be doing a live Rom-com evening romance and comedy, real short version, mini. Ladies especially, check it out. Funny Wine Girl on Facebook. Uncorked with Funny Wine Girl is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. Every Thursday, a new episode. This week, Senator Rosemary Brown. You'll hear that episode. And April 26th, Groove Brewing. If you're in the Scranton area, be sure to check it out. Facebook, I'm sure you'll see posts about it. That's it.
Of course, we'll post it on our website as well, and the Facebook channels and stuff like that, just to try to get a little more. It's always about getting it
Absolutely.
out there.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you guys so much. I'm losing my voice here because I should be in bed. Thank you guys. I stayed up late for you. I hope you appreciate it. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun, honestly. Thank you.
Always
so much.
nothing but love, Jannine.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. We're the Podguyz Podcast. You can find us on all your streaming apps, streaming channels, live video feeds, YouTube, wherever you
like.
Spotify.
Yeah, type it all in. Do the thing.
Google it. I'm Tony Kaz.
Kevin Neary.
Of course, the ever-loving Picasso.
Sparky.
He speaks. Have a great night, guys. Make sure you like, share below. Jannine Luby. Thank you.
Night.
Bye.